This is Negotiating with Jesus. I'm Tom. I'm going to read a little bit of Mark to you today. I did a video a couple minutes ago, still wearing the same clothes. Still got the sun in the background, got a picture of me and Jesus here. There's me, there's Jesus. Jesus looking very young, youthful, energetic. Me looking a little haggard, a little tired. I don't think you'll be able to zoom in on it, but remarkable likeness of Jesus and me. Almost miraculous in its amazing resemblance. So, Negotiating with Jesus, make sure you like and subscribe, get notifications, do all the things that you're supposed to do. Listen, you know what you're supposed to do, and you're supposed to return often for more content. I'm going to try and put out a lot. We're going to do scripture readings and a little commentary where I act like I kind of know what's going on in the Bible and fill in some blanks, tell you some things that I think are interesting. And you can comment below, down below in those other parts, in the weird, terrible comment sections. I would love if you'd say only nice, sweet things, but I love comments. I find comments a gold mine, and I don't even mind bad comments. To me, comment sections are very interesting. But do be kind, please. You don't want to make me cry. So this little section, we're going to read Mark chapter 1, verse 21 through 28. That has a little heading, which was not in the original text, but gives you a heading of what this section is about. It says, Jesus drives out an impure spirit. So impure spirit gives you a sense that we're going to be talking about demon possession. Crazy thing that you only see in like that Stephen King novel. Is it Carrie? No, The Exorcist. I don't know who did that one. Who did The Exorcist? And you have that girl who's possessed, and she like has projectile vomiting. Her head spins around. She can crawl on the ceiling. It's terrifying. Do not watch that. Please do not watch anything showing you a vivid portrayal of demon possession. You only have nightmares, and so I highly recommend that you not watch scary movies. I do not care for scary movies. For some reason, I like movies where they're killing a lot of bad guys. I seem to have no problem with blood and gore, as long as it's not horror movies where blood and gore seems to be just the idea of the entertainment itself. I want to see a battle of good and evil, so I don't mind killing people, but I have to have a clear understanding of who they are. So Jesus drives out an impure spirit. Mark chapter 1, verse 21. They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to teach. The people were amazed at his teaching because he taught them as one who had authority, not as the teachers of the law. Just then a man in their synagogue who was possessed by an impure spirit cried out, "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." "Be quiet," Jesus said sternly. "Come out of him." The impure spirit shook the man violently and came out of him with a shriek. The people were all so amazed that they asked each other, "What is this? A new teaching and with authority? He even gives orders to impure spirits, and they obey him." News about him spread quickly over the whole region of Galilee. So that is Mark chapter 1, verse 21 through 28. And Jesus has now been baptized. He's called a couple disciples. He's called James and John, brothers, and Andrew and Peter, who are brothers. They're following him. He's starting to create a little team, and he's going to train these people up and send them out. And then he starts this ministry. So Jesus in the book of Mark, just appears out of nowhere. And you have to read the other Gospels to get some small sense of how he was born, how he was raised, in really a traditional ancient Jewish traditions, doing all the things that they would have done. Mark gives a very condensed look, a very fast-paced, action-packed, condensed look at Jesus. It starts with him being baptized by John, and then he moves right into a temptation, a time of testing in the wilderness, facing Satan, face-to-face combat, and then he goes out into ministry. And one of the first things he does, he calls some people to follow him, which he still does. And I heard that call, and I said, man, I need somebody like this. I need to follow somebody. We all follow somebody. I'm like, boy, Jesus, if I'm going to follow somebody, this seems like the guy that there's no question that Jesus is worth following. So the idea of worthy. Jesus clearly is worthy as a human leader like no other. And everyone kind of knows it. Even those who discredit Jesus don't do it out of a sense that they're better. They do it out of a sense of combat, of some disbelief, something like that. So Jesus went into Capernaum, and he is teaching on the Sabbath. He's in the synagogue, which is their church-like meeting. The Jews meet in the synagogue and talk about Scripture, and they argue and try and determine what it is God is doing, because he's using the Jews. They're a peculiar people set apart, and they want to teach this truth about the one true God. Now, when Jesus comes in and starts teaching, he teaches as one who had authority, not like the teachers of the law who are in there and they've studied under these great teachers, and they wrestle with Scripture, and they're telling people what God truly wants and how he truly acts. And in comes Jesus, and people right away can say, they can see that Jesus is different. He's teaching like he actually knows what he's talking about. And the word authority reminds you and comes from the word author, as if he was the one that was writing it down and knew exactly how the story went, as if he was the author of the story, not like the teachers who don't even really understand the story at all. And everyone right away is amazed. And Mark continues all through Mark. People are amazed by Jesus. And Jesus is moving around in communities, and people are just astonished by this person. There's no one like Jesus. And Jesus then comes, a man in the synagogue is in there, and he's possessed by an evil spirit, some kind of possession. I don't know if his head will spin, like, I can't think of who it is in The Exorcist. That's not Carrie. What's that girl's name in The Exorcist? Whatever her name is, she's projectile omni. She talks about, get out! She has this gruff man's voice. Ugh. And, maybe this guy's head spins around. What do you want with us? And he talks in this, terrifying voice that sounds demonic, sounds like someone who is a destroyer of souls. So this man is possessed, and the possessor, the spirit, impure spirit, knows just who Jesus is. So there's a sense that their spiritual world, people kind of, in the spiritual world, the spirits know what's going on. Satan knew of Jesus. They just had it out in the wilderness with Satan trying to tempt Jesus, trying to trip him up, trying to take him off his course, trying to introduce sin. And sin, the idea that you cannot hit the bullseye. Whatever the bullseye is, Satan's like, if I could just get him to miss the bullseye, miss the target. And that is the whole idea of sin. And so the spirit knows of Jesus. What do you want with us? Jesus of Nazareth. And Nazareth, this lowly town, it's not a town of significance. It's a town that's mocked. Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. And Jesus tells the spirit to be quiet and come out of him. The spirit shakes the man violently, like he's trying to hang on, as Jesus is like, get out of him. The spirit's hanging out, and the guy's like, what in the world? And comes out of him with a shriek. And then the people are witness to this. So Jesus is doing things in public to make some kind of statement about who he is. He's going to display himself. He's going to do things that fulfill prophecy, that show power. And he's going to speak in a way that nobody's ever heard. There's never been anything like this. The people are amazed. What is this? A new teaching? As if he actually has authority, knows what he's talking about. He even gives orders to impure spirits, and they obey. And so you can imagine people went home and said, "You won't believe what happened today at the synagogue. You know, Brother Jim was talking, and you know how he goes on, and we're like, when is this going to end? I'd like to get some lunch. I'd like to have a little lamb's leg." And they're like, "Jim, come on. We've heard you talk." And you just go on. And we, like when I teach at youth, and the youth are like, "Tom, can we please close the lesson? You're telling us the same thing you always tell us." And I'm like, "Yeah, just settle down. We'll have some snacks later. I'll sugar you up and send you home." So everyone's at the synagogue, and then this happens, and everyone's like, "What in the world?" And they go home, and the news of this, you better believe it spreads over the whole region. This is crazy. You won't believe what happened at synagogue. And you can imagine, this is exactly, people will give you a sense that, you know, in this culture, the context is so hard to understand, you know, the way people act, the way they treat women, the way they, you know, sacrifice. They believe in sacrifice. They believe in stoning. It is not that different than today. We still, man, be careful. I used to love this guy, Hank Williams Sr. He had this song, "Be careful of stones that you throw." And the idea that we still will throw stones at people, at least metaphorically. Man, we stone people all the time. And we want to get a good chunk and big rock when somebody offends us and be like, our words are like daggers or like stones, or, you know, they can be crushing. The idea that Jesus would be shocking, we would all talk about him, it would be the latest news, it would be a big story, that we would gossip to everybody. We'd go down to the hairdresser and be like, "You wouldn't believe this guy I saw, it's Jesus." And he talked to this, you remember Frederick, the you know, the guy that always comes in and he's got that, you know, that evil spirit, and he comes in and is like, "Wah, I'm going to kill you all," and he's got that weird thing going on. He's possessed. Jesus came in and told him to be quiet, and he actually removed whatever evil spirit. And then all of a sudden, Frederick was like, "So, how you guys doing? You want to come over to my house for lunch later? It'll be it looks like quite a nice, lovely day." And Frederick was cured, and Jesus taught in the synagogue. You remember Brother Jim always going on and on and on, and then Jesus taught, and he talked for like 10 minutes, and it was astonishing. I never heard anything like it. So all this stuff is exactly what we do understand. It's not impossible to comprehend. These stories are so vivid and real, but you also have to be imaginative and just see how it would play out if you were there. So Scripture, you read it, you take it, and you start letting it live. Let Scripture live. It is a living and breathing document. You let it live, and you see how it plays out, and you're like, "Man, that makes sense." And you start to meet this Jesus character and think, "Boy, I want to be hanging around a guy who can drive out impure spirits, because those things freak me out. I want to be around a guy when he speaks, it gives me wisdom. It gives me some shock and awe." That was pretty amazing. So we're going to continue to do this. We're going through Mark. We're going to be finishing up chapter 1 pretty soon here. Looks like we've got all the way to verse 46. We got maybe 3 more sections. We'll continue to do it. Like and subscribe. Get notifications. Do all that below. You know what you're supposed to do. I'm going to talk to you later. Negotiating with Jesus. So long.